I'll never forget the look on her face when I walked through that door. Pure panic. Like she'd seen a ghost, and in a way she had. The owner of a house she'd been renting out as her own for months wasn't supposed to be there. Before you watch full story, comment down your country name, I would love to hear. Let me start from the beginning. My name is James Morgan. 3 years ago, I inherited a beautiful lakeside cabin from my grandfather. It sits on Lake Serene, about 2 hours from the city where I live and work. A perfect weekend getaway with its own private dock, 2 bedrooms, and a deck that catches the sunset just right. I'd go up there when I could, usually once a month, sometimes less during busy work seasons. The cabin is part of the Lake Serene community, which has about 40 homes. Most are vacation properties like mine, but some residents live there year-round. The community has an HOA, something I wasn't thrilled about, but the annual fees were reasonable, mostly covering road maintenance and the community boat launch. That's how I met Patricia Winters, the HOA president. Mid-50s, blonde hair always perfectly styled, and the kind of smile that doesn't reach her eyes. She took her position very seriously. Too seriously. "Mr. Morgan," she'd say whenever I visited, clipboard in hand, "your gutters need cleaning," or, "that boat cover isn't the approved color," or my personal favorite, "your visitors last month were making excessive noise after 8 p.m. I always nodded politely, made minimal changes, and went about my business. After all, I was only there occasionally. Then COVID hit and I couldn't visit the lake house for nearly 8 months. My company shifted to remote work, but we were busier than ever, developing software for telehealth systems. Days blurred into nights, weekends disappeared, and suddenly it was November, and I realized I hadn't seen my cabin since February. I should check on the place, I told my girlfriend Mia one Friday evening as we were ordering takeout. "Want to come up to the lake this weekend? Fresh air would do us good." "I can't," she sighed. "Deadline on Tuesday." "But you should go, you've been talking about it for weeks." She was right. I packed a bag that night and hit the road early Saturday morning. The first strange thing I noticed was that the usually quiet community had several cars parked along the narrow roads. Not completely unusual for a nice fall weekend, but more traffic than normal. A few people I didn't recognize nodded at me as I drove past. When I pulled into my driveway, I immediately knew something was wrong. There was a silver Mercedes SUV parked in my spot. The blinds were open and I could see lights on inside my cabin. Had I been robbed? Was someone squatting in my property? I sat in my car for a moment, debating whether to call the local sheriff first. But curiosity got the better of me. I walked up to my own front door and found it unlocked. I stepped inside. The smell hit me first, unfamiliar perfume mixed with something cooking in my kitchen. Then I heard voices from the back deck. "The kayaks are included, of course. You're welcome to use them anytime during your stay." That voice, I knew it immediately. Patricia Winters. I walked through my own living room, noticing small changes everywhere. New throw pillows on my couch. A different coffee table book. Pictures I'd never seen before on the wall. When I stepped onto the deck, 3 people turned to look at me. A middle-aged couple I'd never seen before, and Patricia, who was midway through pouring them glasses of wine. My wine from the cabinet above the fridge. "Oh," the woman said, looking confused. "Are you the maintenance person Patricia mentioned?" Patricia's wine glass froze midair. Her face drained of color so quickly I thought she might faint. "No," I said calmly, though my heart was racing. "I'm James Morgan. I own this house." The silence that followed was deafening. "There must be some mistake," the man finally said, looking at Patricia. "We rented this place for the weekend. We paid in full." Patricia finally found her voice. "James? What a surprise. I thought you weren't coming up until next week." Her hand was shaking so badly she had to set the wine bottle down. "I never told you I was coming next week," I said. "I haven't spoken to you in months. What's going on here, Patricia?" The couple was looking increasingly uncomfortable. The woman pulled out her phone. "I have the Airbnb listing right here. Lake Serene Luxury Cabin, hosted by Patricia. We paid $250 a night, plus cleaning fee." She turned the phone toward me. There it was. My house, my deck, my dock, professionally photographed and listed on Airbnb. The listing had 47 reviews. 47. "How long has this been going on?" I asked quietly. Patricia started gathering her things with jerky movements. "This is just a misunderstanding. I'll refund you both immediately," she told the couple, ignoring my question. "Let me make some calls. I'm sure we can find you another property for the weekend." "Patricia," I said louder this time, "how long have you been renting out my house?" The couple was now backing toward the door. We'll just wait in our car, the man said. Let you two sort this out. As soon as they left, Patricia's demeanor changed completely. What were you thinking showing up without telling me? She hissed. I have a business to run. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A business? An MY house. Without MY permission. You're hardly ever here, she shot back. This property was sitting empty while other homeowners are struggling to pay their HOA fees during the pandemic. I'm simply making efficient use of resources. By stealing from me? By breaking into my house and renting it out. She straightened her designer blazer. I didn't break in. I have a key. All HOA board members have access keys for emergencies. My mind was reeling. Those keys are for emergencies only. Not for whatever this is. Look, she said, suddenly all business. Let's be reasonable. The cabin has been rented almost continuously since April. I've made nearly $40,000. I'll cut you in 60-40. You'll make more than you would if you rented it out yourself without lifting a finger. I stared at her, speechless. She was offering me a cut of money she'd stolen from me, as if she was doing me a favor. Get out, I said quietly. Don't be ridiculous. We can work this out like adults. Get. No. And leave your key. Her face hardened. Fine. But think about my offer. And remember, I am still the HOA president. Making an enemy of me would be unwise. She dropped the key on the counter and swept out, leaving me alone in my own house that somehow didn't feel like mine anymore. I stood there in shock for a few minutes, then started looking around more carefully. The place was clean but different. My personal items had been moved to a locked closet. The sheets weren't mine. Even the towels had been replaced with fluffy white ones like you'd find in a hotel. My hands were shaking as I called the local sheriff's office. I'd like to report a break-in and theft, I told the dispatcher. 2 hours later, Deputy Klein was sitting at my kitchen table taking notes. He was a solid man in his 40s with a no-nonsense attitude that I appreciated. The couple who had rented my cabin, the Hamiltons, had agreed to stay and give statements. So you're saying Patricia Winters used her HOA emergency key to access your property, then listed it on Airbnb without your knowledge or consent? Deputy Klein clarified. Yes. According to these guests, it's been happening since April. I did the quick math. 7 months of unauthorized rentals. He nodded. And approximately how much money would that represent? Based on what she told me, around $40,000. He whistled. That's felony territory, Mr. Morgan. The Hamiltons had shown us their rental agreement, payment receipts, and the message history with Superhost Patricia. They were understandably upset but also incredibly helpful. We've stayed here 3 times this year, Mrs. Hamilton said. Patricia always met us personally. Said she was the owner. She had a whole story about inheriting it from her parents, Mr. Hamilton added. Talked about growing up here, swimming off that dock as a child. Each new detail felt like another violation. Patricia hadn't just stolen my property, she'd stolen my history, my grandfather's legacy. Deputy Klein flipped his notebook closed. I've got enough for now. We'll need to take formal statements from all of you down at the station. And Mr. Morgan, I'd recommend changing your locks immediately. What about the other guests? I asked. The listing had 47 reviews. We'll subpoena those records from Airbnb. Each unauthorized rental could potentially be a separate charge. After they left, I sat on my deck, watching the sunset over the lake. The peace I usually felt here was gone, replaced by a sickening unease. I called Mia and filled her in. That's insane, she said. How did she think she'd get away with it? I guess she thought I'd never find out. If I hadn't shown up unannounced. But how did she know when you wouldn't be there? How was she so confident you wouldn't run into guests? Was a good question. One that kept me up that night even after I'd changed the locks and pushed a chair against the door, feeling like a stranger in my own home. The next morning I decided to talk to my neighbors. The cabin to my right belonged to the Jeffersons, an elderly couple who lived there year-round. Martha Jefferson was watering plants when I approached. James. It's been ages. Hi, Martha. I was wondering, have you noticed a lot of different people staying at my place recently? She set down her watering can. Oh yes. Patricia told everyone you were helping the community by offering your cabin as a short-term rental. Said you were donating a portion of the proceeds to the HOA fund to help neighbors affected by the pandemic. My jaw dropped. She said what? Martha nodded. It was announced at the April HOA meeting. Patricia showed us all the listing, said you'd arranged everything through her since you were too busy in the city. Martha, none of that is true. I never gave permission for any of this. The color drained from her face. Oh dear. We all thought. She even collected a community fee from every renter. Said it was going into a special assistance fund. A community fee. On top of the rental charges. My blood boiled. Do you know if she's done this with any other properties? Martha thought for a moment. Well, the Richardsons' place has had visitors too. And they're stuck in Florida, haven't been able to travel since last winter. I just assumed. I thanked her and spent the next hour knocking on doors. By lunchtime, I'd learned that at least 4 other properties were being rented out the same way, all belonging to owners who couldn't travel due to the pandemic. All managed by Patricia. All supposedly with the owner's blessing and partially benefiting the community. I called the sheriff's office again. Deputy Klein asked me to come in, bringing any neighbors willing to make statements. By Monday morning, the scale of Patricia's scheme was becoming clear. She had been using her position as HOA president to run an unauthorized rental empire. 5 properties including mine, all rented nearly continuously for 7 months. All told, she'd taken in over $150,000, with at least $50,000 of that supposedly earmarked for community assistance, that no one had seen. I met with a lawyer who specialized in property crimes. He was blunt. This is grand theft, fraud, breaking and entering, and misuse of position. She's looking at potential prison time. But Patricia wasn't going down without a fight. By Tuesday, she called an emergency HOA meeting. I attended, along with nearly every homeowner in the community. Patricia stood at the front, perfectly composed in a cream-colored pantsuit. I understand there's been some confusion, she began, her voice steady. As HOA president, I took the initiative during these unprecedented times to help our community utilize vacant properties efficiently. All proceeds were being held in a special account for future community improvements. This was always intended to be disclosed at our year-end meeting, with proper disbursements to the property owners. Murmurs rippled through the room. She was trying to paint this as a misunderstanding, a well-intentioned plan that simply hadn't been communicated properly. I stood up. Patricia, you listed my home under your name. You told renters you owned it. You collected money that you kept. That's theft, plain and simple. I was acting as an agent on behalf of the community, she countered. The emergency powers provision in our HOA bylaws gives the board authority to make decisions. Emergency powers don't include breaking into people's homes and renting them out, shouted Bill Richardson, one of the other affected owners. We called our son to check our place yesterday. The family photos are gone, Patricia. There are strangers' clothes in our closets. The room erupted. Other homeowners started sharing stories, violations Patricia had written them up for, special assessments that never seemed to result in improvements, mysterious fees that appeared on their HOA bills. Patricia remained calm, but I could see sweat beading along her hairline. If you'll all just calm down, I can explain everything. The community account has all the funds. Nothing is missing. Then show us the account, I challenged. Right now. Her smile faltered. I don't have those records with me. This is all a simple misunderstanding that's being blown out of proportion. The sheriff doesn't think so, I said. Neither does the district attorney. At the mention of the DA, she finally lost her composure. You have no idea who you're dealing with, she snapped. My brother-in-law is a judge. My sister works for the largest real estate firm in the county. You'll never win this. The treasurer of the HOA, a quiet man named Doug who'd been watching the exchange with increasing distress, stood up. Patricia, where is the Community Assistance Fund? I've never seen it in our books. I told you it's a separate account. Under whose name? Doug pressed. Because it's not under the HOA's name. I checked. The room went silent. This meeting is adjourned, Patricia announced, gathering her things. We'll reconvene when everyone has calmed down and can discuss this rationally. As she turned to leave, Deputy Klein entered the room, accompanied by another officer. Patricia Winters, he called. We have some questions for you down at the station. Her face, when she turned and saw them, was exactly like it had been when I walked in on her at my cabin. Pure panic, quickly masked by indignation. This is harassment, she declared. I was performing my duties as HOA president. Ma'am, we have statements from 5 property owners and over a dozen renters, Deputy Klein said. We have records from Airbnb and bank transactions showing funds deposited into your personal account. Please come with us now. As they escorted her out, the room erupted again, this time with homeowners comparing stories, checking phones for rental listings, and organizing to review the HOA books. The investigation moved quickly after that. Patricia's Community Assistance Fund was nowhere to be found. The money had gone straight into her personal accounts and had funded a new Mercedes, designer clothes, and extensive renovations to her own lakeside home. Within a week, the DA had filed multiple charges against her: 5 counts of breaking and entering, grand theft, fraud, and misappropriation of HOA funds. It turned out she'd also been skimming from the regular HOA account for years, billing for services never rendered and pocketing the difference. The discovery of a notebook in her home office was the final nail in the coffin. In it, she'd meticulously tracked the schedules of vacation homeowners, when we visited, how long we stayed, patterns of use. She'd been planning this scam long before the pandemic gave her the perfect opportunity to execute it. I had to appear in court 3 times over the next few months. Each time, Patricia appeared perfectly put together but increasingly desperate. Her high-priced lawyer tried everything, arguing that she had implied consent, that it was a civil matter, not criminal, that she intended to return the funds eventually. None of it worked. In the end, Patricia Winters, former HOA president and self-appointed rental mogul, was sentenced to 4 years in prison for theft and fraud. She was ordered to pay restitution to all the homeowners she'd stolen from, plus additional damages. After the sentencing, I stood outside the courthouse with Bill Richardson and the other victims. "I still can't believe she thought she'd get away with it," Bill said, shaking his head. "She almost did," I pointed out. "If I hadn't shown up that weekend." The scary thing was how close she'd come to succeeding. If the pandemic had lasted another year, if I'd stayed away just a bit longer, would anyone have discovered what she was doing? The Lake Serene community held elections for a new HOA board the following month. Doug, the treasurer who'd first questioned Patricia about the missing funds, was elected president. His first act was to implement new transparency rules and give homeowners digital access to all financial records. The emergency keys were formally destroyed in a symbolic ceremony at the community picnic. Any future emergency access would require multiple board members present and immediate notification to the homeowner. As for my cabin, it took time to feel like mine again. I replaced everything Patricia had changed: the sheets, towels, decor. I threw out the guest book she'd kept, unable to stomach the reviews praising Patricia's beautiful lake house. Mia helped me repaint the interior, choosing colors my grandfather would have liked. "Making it yours again," she called it. There was a silver lining to the whole ordeal. In the process of reclaiming my space, I fell back in love with the cabin. I started working remotely from there 2 weeks each month. The peaceful mornings on the deck with my laptop, the afternoon swims, the community that had come together in the wake of Patricia's crimes, it all reminded me why my grandfather had loved this place so much. 6 months after Patricia went to prison, I received the first restitution payment. I used it to build a new dock, one with a better view of the sunset. And I installed a state-of-the-art security system with cameras I could monitor from anywhere, just in case someone else got any bright ideas about turning my sanctuary into their personal ATM. The strangest part came a year later, when I received a letter from the prison where Patricia was serving her sentence. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won out. "I still don't believe I did anything wrong," she wrote. "The properties were sitting empty. I was making money for everyone. You should thank me for maintaining your cabin better than you ever did." Even after everything, she still didn't get it. It was never about the money. It was about the violation of my property, my trust, my grandfather's legacy. It was about someone treating something precious to me as if it was hers to profit from. I didn't respond to the letter. Instead, I added a custom sign next to my front door, visible to anyone who approached the cabin. "Property of James Morgan. Not for rent. Ever." The last I heard, Patricia was teaching a business class to fellow inmates. I can only imagine what lessons she's sharing. As for me, I'm at the cabin right now, writing this from the dock her restitution payments helped rebuild. The irony isn't lost on me. In her desperate attempt to profit from my property, Patricia Winters ultimately ended up investing in it, and reminding me just how valuable it really is. The sunset is beautiful tonight. My grandfather always said Lake Serene shows its true colors at dusk. Golden light on still waters with no ripples to disturb the peace. He was right, of course. Some things are worth protecting no matter what. Even from the HOA president herself.